Hi, and welcome to My Cousin Timmy's podcast, brought to you by Spiros Bros Media. In addition to our audio-only version, which you can download on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, this season we'll be bringing you all of our episodes on YouTube so you can view our beautiful faces. You can search Apple Podcasts and Spotify for My Cousin Timmy, and on YouTube, our YouTube channel is My Cousin Timmy. See you soon.
I'm in the house. I'm in the motherfucking house. I stepped inside.
I'm back.
I got these hundreds
Episode
screaming
1
out.
of Season 2 of the My Cousin Timmy podcast. And today I have a special guest for you. As some of you may know, Cousin Timmy is now hosting a trivia game every Saturday night on the cloud, online. And we've been talking a lot about trivia, and I wanted to interview a good friend of mine who is the self-proclaimed king of trivia. So he's waiting on the other line now to get into the room so we can have this podcast interview. So I'm going to let him in shortly, and then we'll go from there.
Hello.
Look at you. Look at this specimen here. Stand up. Let me take a look at you. Classic button-up shirt and no pants. I love it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to welcome to the show a longtime friend of mine, a good friend of mine. He is standing at 6'4". Sitting down, he's about 6'4". He is the self-proclaimed king of trivia, my good buddy, Pat Chambers. Pat, welcome to the show.
Cousin Timmy, thanks for having me on.
How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. My back is a little sore today. I was planting grass seed. You ever planted grass seed?
I've planted plenty of seeds. None of them were grass.
Well, when you plant grass seed on grass that's already there, basically you want to mow your lawn really short, and you want to rake everything out so that the seed will be in contact with the soil. And my rake broke about halfway through the job. So I was basically bending over with a broken rake, at one point on my hands and knees, basically like a goalie, trying to find a hockey puck, trying to get everything out so I could plant today. So that's why the back's a little tight, but I'll rally for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And where are you calling me from here? Looks like you're out on the Great Lakes.
Not a Great Lake. This is, so as you know, I live here in Madison, Wisconsin. Shout out to the Madison Mallards. For the folks who are listening to the podcast version, I am wearing a Madison Mallards cap. They are a Northwoods Baseball League team here in Madison. Season will probably get canceled, but still hanging on to hope. And then my background is Lake Mendota, one of the two big lakes here in Madison. Thought it was a little bit more interesting than my kitchen wall.
Yes, being outside is much appreciated at this point in time.
When did you tell me about, why don't you tell the listeners, I should say, a little bit about your background?
This is my recording studio. I've been building it while we're in quarantine. I turned my wife's office into my recording studio, so now she has to work in the bedroom.
It looks very smoky in the background.
Yep.
Is that how you
deepen
get
my
ready
voice?
For the show?
Yeah, I deepen my voice, so I smoke a bunch of cigars before we start recording. I learned that from one of my college professors. Told me if I wanted to be in radio broadcasting, I needed to smoke a bunch of cigars. So he gave me a pack of 12 cigars walked me out to the parking lot outside of the building at school, opened the trunk of his car, and I thought he was going to murder me. And he handed me a box of 12 cigars. And he said, "Here you go. Smoke these and your voice will be ready." I said, "Okay. I'll see what I can do." I don't know if I ever actually smoked all 12 of them. I definitely tried with at least one, but I'm not quite sure what happened. So, Pat, now you're the first guest on season 2 of the My Cousin Timmy podcast, and
Oh, wow.
the yes,
Way to start off with a bang.
yes, I'm honored to have you. Now, most of our listeners know that I've been just started hosting a weekly trivia game. And I thought it would be good to have you as the guest, as the self-proclaimed king of trivia. Now,
You
is
know,
that
I
true?
don't ever remember proclaiming myself as a king of trivia. I just want to get that out there for the record.
Okay. Well,
You know,
some of our friends then have anointed you the king of trivia.
well,
Now, I'm
that's
here
fine.
to get to the bottom of that, and we're going to see how you got to be anointed this crown of king of trivia. So tell me a little bit about your take on trivia. So when was your first taste of trivia? When would you say that you began to love it?
Well, so before we dive in, a lot of folks they go on podcasts with an agenda, right? They want to promote their book, they want to promote their product, TV show, things like that. And I just want to make sure that I'm here to promote what I want to promote, which is actually your trivia game. Timmy's Trivia every Saturday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Only $10 to enter. Best $10 I've ever spent. Contact my cousin Timmy to sign up. Put in promo code Chambers for, well, actually, you can't give him a promo code, but yeah, Timmy's Trivia every Saturday night. Check it out.
Yeah, there are no freebies here. You need to earn the respect and earn a freebie spot. No promo
And
codes here.
and I should have mentioned this earlier, but I'm wearing this Madison Mallards hat because that was the team name that I gave myself on the first of what will be many Timmy's Trivia, which kicked off last Saturday. So if you want to play against me, look for the Madison Mallards.
Yes, if you
Um,
want to take down the king of trivia, please join us every Saturday. And just so you know, 3 people have already taken him down, as he only finished in 4th place of 23 people in week 1. But I know he's going to consistently be at the top every week, and we're going to find out here right now why that is. So, Pat, tell us a little bit about your first taste of trivia. When would you say you learned what trivia was?
I think my earliest trivia memory is back in, I want to say, second grade. I think we had to, or maybe I just did it on my own. I think we had to. We had to learn all the state capitals. Did you ever have to do that at any point?
Yeah, I would say maybe that was 3rd or 4th grade for me.
Okay. Yeah, maybe I'm misremembering or whatever, but yeah, I remember learning them all. And I just remember at some point at school, like me and the fellow kids quizzing each other, on these state capitals, and kind of getting that adrenaline rush when you get it right. I don't know if you ever did that as well.
Get an adrenaline rush? Of course I did. But yeah, I mean, I understand it's like a game, it's like learning. So, um, being pretty good at trivia, would you say that you were a good student as a kid? Did you read a lot? Like, where would you think this all kind of stemmed from?
Um, yeah, I really don't know. I don't know why I tend to be good at trivia. It's for the most part a useless skill, other than when you're, I don't know, making small talk or, for example, playing Timmy's Trivia every Saturday night at 8 or 9 p.m. Eastern. Um, I've just been always been able to memorize kind of random facts, even if I don't necessarily want to. um, you know, like when I was in school, I would still have to study for tests the same way other people would. I couldn't just read something once and always memorize it. But when it came to just random useless facts, they were always just able to stick in my brain.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so would you say that you were like an average student, above average? Like, did you do well in your SATs, or is this really just remembering random facts? Like, I always think when like I see people that do really well at trivia, or for instance on Jeopardy, which we'll get into in a little bit. Like, these people must be geniuses. Like, they can't really just sit around and read like encyclopedias all day. Like, they just must be really smart. So that's, I'm curious, as someone like yourself who's typically generally pretty good with trivia. It's like, he's got to be a pretty smart guy, right? Would you say that you feel you're pretty smart?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, you mentioned Jeopardy. I remember sitting at a dive bar in Baltimore about a year ago, and it was around dinner time or whatever, and we were waiting. I think we were waiting for a takeout order, so I was having a beer at the bar and watching Jeopardy with the bartender, and he was just crushing it. Which is not to say that bartenders are not educated or anything, but all to say is, yeah, I'm not really sure why some people are better than others at memorizing these random facts. I do know that Jeopardy James, the guy who just won all that money on Jeopardy, his strategy is to read children's books on topics because they kind of cover the kind of basic high level information without going into too much detail. Because at the end of the day, that's all you need to know, right? You just need to know. You just need to know the basics. You don't need to know anything further than that.
Now, speaking of Jeopardy, did you watch a lot of game shows as a kid?
Yeah, yeah. So you asked me about my first memory, and I think that was the Capitals. Which, by the way, you think you can remember any of those?
State capitals?
That's right.
Of course. I know a
Well,
few.
so
Not too many, but I know a few.
so I also I want to give you a chance to do some trivia as well because you're the host of Timmy's
Yeah,
Trivia.
well,
You don't get
that's
to participate, so I brought
yeah,
along a few things to ask you as well. So why don't we do a few capitals? Let's go with New York.
Albany.
Nailed it. Pennsylvania.
Uh,
That would be
Gettysburg.
Harrisburg.
Oh shit.
How about Oregon, Mr. West Coast?
Eugene?
Olympia. Oh wait, no. Or is that Washington? Yeah, I wrote that down.
Jesus Christ. Don't come on my show and start asking me questions and not be prepared.
I meant to say Washington.
All right. That's the end of that game.
One more. Vermont.
One more. Go ahead.
Yeah, what's the capital of Vermont?
Oh, Mount Pillier.
Yeah, Montpelier. It has just under 8,000 people.
Okay.
So overall, you did pretty good.
What's up?
Um,
Can you can you see me? What happened here in my screen?
no, I just see your cousin Timmy image.
All right, Pat. We had some technical difficulties there. My video went out, so we had to restart. I was right before we got disconnected. I was asking Pat here if he watched any game shows as a kid, and if so, what were your favorite ones, and why did you like those?
Yeah, and by the way, Salem is the capital of Oregon. Shout out to the good folks of Salem. Um, Another of my earliest trivia experiences was watching this show.
Ha! Carmen Sandiego. Okay.
Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego?
How was that like trivia? I don't quite remember what it was about except finding
Oh,
her.
well, I'm glad you asked. So first of all, it was a TV show in the 90s. It was also a computer game. And I was fortunate enough to have it came out in like the late 1980s.
Okay.
And I was fortunate enough that my parents had a computer when I was really young, and we had the game. So basically, but how the TV show worked was okay, so this woman right here,
Yeah.
she was awesome. And you didn't watch, so you won't know any of these questions. But for our listeners, try to think of her name, the chief. So the chief would give 3 kids an assignment, and that assignment was to catch Carmen Sandiego. As she would also call the kids gumshoes, which was just awesome. Um, and so the way it would work, it was kind of like Jeopardy. 3 kids would stand at podiums, and they would get quizzed on geography questions. And if you made it to the final round, I believe there was like a map, and you had to run around with these like poles. And the host, this guy here, I'll talk about him in a second. He would, I don't know, give some kind of trivia clue, and you had to go put the pole in the spot of the city that he was asking about on the map. And if you got all the poles in by the time that before time ran out, you found Carmen Sandiego, and it was just absolutely electric. Um,
Now,
and also,
was this scene? I vaguely remember seeing this a few times. Was the scene kind of like a bunch of brick backgrounds and like looked kind of like an industrial
yeah,
type
it
of
took place in like
atmosphere?
almost like a kind of industrial warehouse loft type
Okay.
vibe. Um, and I mean, what everyone remembers and should remember, and I highly encourage you to edit this in somewhere into the podcast, is the theme song to Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, performed by Rock Apella.
Okay. It went a little something. Went a little something like this, right? Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Right? Something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah, and again, highly recommend you put in the actual song, although your rendition is pretty good. It's basically what you did, but with like 6 other dudes. So
Nice.
they are an a cappella group,
Okay.
but they fucking rock. Sorry, can I cuss on the podcast?
Yeah, we're allowed to use explicits as
Okay,
long as I
okay, cool.
check the box on Apple
Okay,
Podcasts.
sorry, man, but rockapella just brings it out of me. So, um,
You know, quick tidbit here. Cousin Troy, who was on season 1 of the podcast, hopefully he'll return to season 2, was in an a cappella group when he was in college. And 2 of his friends that were in the group have started a professional a cappella group, and they actually travel a little bit and like go and sing at events and stuff and get paid pretty well.
well, you these guys right here on the left side of my screen, uh, they're the gold standard. So,
Okay.
cousin Troy's old bandmates. I mean, sounds like they're doing real well, but you know, they're no rockapella.
Okay, so let's get back to the point here. Carmen Sandiego was one of your favorite shows and used to answer the questions.
Yeah, man.
Okay.
I didn't want to let the chief down. So, I loved
Okay.
answering those questions so that we could go find her. One last thing about Carmen Sandiego is the host. Uh, this guy here I'm pointing to, his name is Greg. I remembered that his name was Greg when I was thinking about this a little earlier. I didn't remember his last name, and I kind of wondered, like, whatever happened to Greg? Um,
Good old Greg.
so I looked him up on Wikipedia. He was a great host. Turns out he didn't really do much after that. Like, he kind of peaked on Carmen Sandiego. But I did see that he was hired to be on the show News Radio.
Okay.
Now, he filmed the pilot, but was ultimately fired before the show actually started, replaced by Joe Rogan. Now, Joe Rogan, as you know, is your primary competition in the podcast market. Um, but we know that you are rapidly climbing up the rankings, and you'll probably overtake him in the ratings soon. So my recommendation to you is when you pass Joe Rogan, which will be soon, you got to screenshot a picture of the rankings. You got to tweet at Joe. And you say, "This one's for Greg."
Good old Greg.
You show that man some goddamn respect. He earned it.
A one and done, one hit wonder, so you say. Now, speaking of other game shows and trivia type shows, the ones that come to mind for me that I used to watch before I really got to the big boys of Jeopardy, which is, basically the ultimate peak of brains and trivia. But I used to watch Family Feud a lot when I was a kid with my yaya, who was a Greek grandmother. And I really like to watch that because a lot of the families on that some people, the answers they would give are just so idiotic, and I'd get so angry, even as like a kid in middle school. But I really liked at the end of the show, the winning team got to do a quick, I forget what it's called now, maybe a lightning round or something. And it was one person got to answer 5 or so questions. And they both got the same questions, the 2 people that did it. But I really enjoyed that. So that was one that I liked. And then there's, of course, Wheel of Fortune, which is a little bit of luck. And not quite trivia, but it's still a mental thinking game where you have to guess, obviously, words, solve the puzzle. So really, it's just trivia, puzzles, all sort of games where you can win. Ultimately, is the goal to win money or the grand prize. But those 2, and then I also when Who Wants to Be a Millionaire came out in the early 2000s. Was kind of the one-on-one serious type of show, was really fun to watch with the lifelines and stuff. And I spoke to my dad today, and I asked him, I said, "Do you want to come on the podcast? I've been doing this trivia show, and I'm talking about trivia with my friend Pat tonight." And I remember when I was a kid, you called in to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and the way they did the game to get on was anybody could just call their hotline, and you had to answer a series of like 4 questions, I think, and you would just use the touch tone pad on the phone to answer, like A, B, C, or D.
See, I originally, when you first said that, I thought he was one of those phone a friends when you said call in. That'd have been pretty wild.
No, we never actually knew anybody that was on the show. But I remember my dad, he did this, and he got the 4 questions right. You had to get all 4 questions right to make it to the next round. And so then they'd have you call back, like, I don't know, the next day or something to do the second round. And I remember there was like 3 rounds, I think, on the phone. And then if you completed all 3 rounds, they threw you into a lottery to be chosen to be on the show. And my dad made it to the 3rd round of the phone interviews, and he got like 1 out of 4. So he didn't quite make it all the way to get thrown into the lottery. But I asked him about it. I was like, "Remember you when you did that?" I was like, "I'd love to talk to you about that," and whatever. And he was like, "I don't recall doing that at all." And I said, "Okay, I guess you're getting a little bit old." So
getting that close, and not making it. That's maybe those are tough memories he doesn't want to relive.
Yeah. So they actually it may have already started, but they're relaunching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Jimmy Kimmel.
Oh.
I think they may have filmed all of them already. They're using celebrities and doing the winnings for charities.
That's cool.
But it's either on TV now or it's coming out soon. So keep an eye out for that if you're interested. But I just named a bunch of different types of game shows. And then there's like The Price is Right, which is just a pure guessing game. There is no mental capacity involved in that at all.
Yeah.
But of the ones I named, obviously, and then we have Jeopardy at the top. But Jeopardy, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Wheel of Fortune, Family Feud. What type of trivia do you prefer? What would you say is most fun for you?
Yeah. So it's interesting you mentioned Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. Um, I watched it because I feel like everybody watched it, back when we were in high school. Um, and it was really entertaining, but I, I never really enjoyed it that much because it just moves so slow.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like they ask a trivia question and you know it, right? But you're just watching this guy squirm for like 5 minutes at a time. It just always felt kind of painful. Um, I will say I do have two memories of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. One was some guy did the phone a friend and he called Rosie O'Donnell. She like actually picked up, which is just bonkers.
Okay.
And then the other, I don't know if you remember this, but it's definitely worth mentioning. But you remember the first guy who won? He was like an IRS agent or something.
Okay. Yeah. Vaguely.
He got to the last question, and nobody had won at all. I don't believe at this point. So it was a huge deal. And I think he had 2 lifelines left. Now, you remember you had 3 lifelines. One was the 50-50 where you knocked out 2 answers.
Sure.
One was the phone a friend where you could call your friend and ask for help. And the third was it poll the audience? And you could just see what the audience thinks. Anyways,
Yep.
This guy had 2 left, right? Final question, hard question. He opts for the phone a friend. He calls his dad and says, "Hey dad, I'm about to win $1 million," and hangs up. Gives his answer, wins the $1 million. That might be the biggest alpha dog move in the history of mankind. So
That would have been
that's really my only positive Who Wants to Be a Millionaire memories, because I just never really got into it, and for the reason that it just moves so slowly. That's why actually I love Jeopardy so much, because it moves so quickly. So if they ask you a trivia question, you don't know it, okay, you can wait literally 2-3 seconds and they'll ask you another one. That's one of the reasons I love Jeopardy so much. Yeah, I guess you could say I'm a Jeopardy fan.
Okay, so Jeopardy is your favorite show. Now, about Jeopardy, I vaguely remember. You tell me if I'm correct. When we were in college,
I was going to bring this up. Yeah.
You tried to enter to be on the show. I'm not sure if this was just regular Jeopardy or if it was college Jeopardy, because I know certain times of the year they have like a college competition. And I remember you answering the questions online or filling out the application. So my question was, did you ever want to be on Jeopardy? But clearly, if this story is right, then the answer is yes. I don't know if my memory serves me correctly, but why don't you touch on that? Is that true? Am I remembering that correctly?
Yeah. Well, I did. So there's an online test you take, and it's basically just timed trivia questions. And I think I've done it twice, and I'm yet to hear from them. So apparently, I didn't do so well compared to the others. Still waiting for my call.
What was the process like? How many questions were there? Did you have to get them all right? What do you remember?
I honestly don't remember if they were multiple choice or if I think you just had to type in your answer, and it would just be, I think they would tell you the category, and it's just like a computer program.
Okay.
It's not like you're simulating the game. They just ask you a ton of questions, and you do your best to answer them. And if you do really well, you eventually get called to like some round. I think you do it again on the computer. And I think eventually you go in person for some kind of tryout. And I think that's like a couple rounds. But yeah, I've never gotten over that initial hump.
Well, maybe we should
someday.
We should try again. What was the last time you'd say you entered that?
It's been a while. I know I tried when I was in grad school, and back in grad school, I didn't have two children, so I was getting a lot more sleep, and I think I was a lot better at trivia than I am now. So if I couldn't get it done then, yeah, I'm not sure I'll get it done now. But I don't know, maybe a few Saturdays of Timmy trivia will get the juices going, and yeah, I'll get it done.
Yeah, you need a personal trainer, and I'm your guy for that. So we'll get you back out there and get you on the show.
By the way, I don't have any Jeopardy trivia questions for you, but Alex Trebek, I know you're probably listening to this, so just want to give you well wishes. He's been having some health problems lately, but on behalf of everyone at my cousin Timmy, we wish you the best.
Yeah, we wish you the best, Alex. Thanks for putting on a great show for everybody all these years. Now, you mentioned grad school. We won't dive too deep into this, but I know you studied psychology, and your mom is a psychology professor, and you studied psychology at a high level in graduate school. Um, what can you tell listeners about psychology in terms of like what you've learned about how the human brain works, and if there's any particular part of the brain that kind of triggers being good at trivia? Is there anything
Hmm.
you can think of that's kind of like, this is why the brain does this and helps certain people excel at trivia more than others?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Two thoughts come to mind. The first is just kind of back in my cognitive psychology days. You learn a lot about how the brain works, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how thought works, and how you recall, how memory works, and how you recall things. Um, Kind of the most simplest explanation I can give is that you have access to so much more information than you are consciously aware of. It's almost like your brain is a computer. You have all these files, all these programs on the computer, but you only have two or three windows open at once. So I think what trivia does, people who are good at trivia are just able to find those random ass files that most people, it's in the recycle bin or junk or whatever, and just pull it up quick, um, as opposed to, I don't know, most people who can't, who maybe selectively chose not to remember that information, and not can't necessarily access them. The other thought that came to mind was, you mentioned studying psychology. That did help me once in a trivia game at a bar. Um, I was playing I used to live in Cambridge, Massachusetts, which, as many know, that's where Harvard and MIT is located. So the games over there they're pretty tough. And one question they had was, the movie Rain Man is based on a real person. What is that real person's name?
Dustin
And
Hoffman.
that's the actor. And so, you know, I'm surrounded by all these eggheads from MIT and Harvard, but the whole crowd just was like, "What? Like, what kind of question? Who the f knows that?"
Yeah.
But me, earlier on in my career, I did research with people with autism, so I actually knew that one very, very well. The answer, and I remember laughing and writing it down immediately. Kim Peek is the real guy's name, and I still think that may be maybe an all-time bad trivia question when nobody knows it except this very, very, very specific knowledge. But yeah, does that help shed a little light into the psychology behind people who are good at trivia?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's definitely helpful for sure. I don't know if that makes me good at trivia or not, but it
Well,
makes you
well, I'll tell you what.
it makes
It
you
makes it a
think.
little. just a little sidebar, but you've always struck me as someone who's good at making decisions because you make decisions from your gut. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah. Yeah.
You were very indecisive in responding to that, so that's a
Yeah.
bad example. But
Now,
when
I'd
you
say
made so,
I make a lot of decisions based on my morality. I don't put too much thought into things. I just like
well,
this seems like a good idea. I'm gonna do it, or I'm not doing that. I'm too scared. Um, or seems like a good idea for me to eat this entire package of Oreos right now. Um, but yeah, I mean, I make decisions with my gut for sure.
so there is evidence to say that basically making decisions with your gut, you're not just kind of randomly picking. You're tapping into tons of information that is stored in your brain, but you're just not consciously aware of. So next time you're making that gut decision, know that it's actually supported by neuroscience.
Interesting. This is good. This is good information that I can use as ammunition against my
Yeah,
wife when she
I was gonna
asks me,
say next time your wife is getting on you.
because she's very thorough and overthinks things a lot and like constantly rethinking and rethinking and rethinking, and I just
Sure.
like make a decision just like that. But
Yeah.
now I can tell her that that decision is actually calculated. I just get to it a lot quicker than she does.
Well, a big decision requires more, I don't know, pros and cons, more things to weigh than you can often consciously be aware of.
Sure.
So you really do have to make that gut decision.
Huh. That's why I got the guts, baby.
Another
Um,
great show, Guts.
yes, yes. Okay, so we learned a little bit about the psychology behind trivia. Now, you personally, what is it about answering random questions that makes you enjoy it so much? Like,
Well,
what really gets you going about it that you just love? You just love it.
I don't know, man. It's like, sure, I'm the same as anybody else. Someone asks a question, it feels good to get it right.
What is
I just
it? What
happen
is
to
it
get it right more often than I think a lot of other people.
now? Would you say the level of intensity of your happiness or your sadness? Um, Not sure if I'm saying that right, but when you get a question right, like how high are you on a happiness level as opposed to when you get a question wrong, like how low are you
Ah,
on that like anger level?
yeah, I think. Well, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick, all the great coaches out there will say that the losses hurt more than the wins feel good, or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I have very specific memories of getting some questions wrong in playing trivia that I don't think I will ever forget. The first one that comes to mind is in grad school playing, pub trivia or whatever with a bunch of friends, and it was one of those things where it would play a clip of a song and you needed to write down what the song was.
Mhm.
And they played a clip of the song. It was called uh, uh, "Boogie Shoes" by Casey and the Sunshine Band. You can add that in later if you want.
Okay. Boogie.
Um, it's that disco song. Um, and I was like, oh wait, I know this. And people would, I don't know, kind of like defer to me when we play trivia. And this girl, one of my friends, she was really really super polite, really um, really great, awesome person. And she was like, hey, I think that's by Casey and the Sunshine Band. I was like, no, no, it's not, no. And then it ended up being Casey and the Sunshine. And I just feel, to this day, and that was like a decade ago, I feel like such an asshole for like overriding her on that question that we got wrong. I don't think
Unbel-
I'll ever forget that.
Unbelievable.
And then
Okay.
actually, more recently, I got the first ever Timmy trivia, which by the way, every Saturday, 9 p.m., only $10 play. I got the first ever question. I got that one wrong. because I was kind of spacing out for a second, and I forgot that all the answers were the red category. And you, of course, asked Prince released this song in 1983, and I thought, man, that's a really vague trivia question. Like, I bet he released a bunch of songs back then. So I guessed. I think I said like, "Let's Go Crazy" or something like that. And then everybody got Little Red Corvette, and I was like, oh shit. So I think I'm
Yeah.
gonna remember that one for a while.
Yeah. So,
And I
go ahead.
missed placing. I was off. I finished in fourth, and if I would have got that right, I think I would have placed third. So that's a
Okay.
tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, I noticed that if you're listening to this podcast and you're playing trivia, pay attention to the categories. I did announce all the categories before each round, and I noticed in the first round, the seeing red category, the first few questions, some of the answers people put had no red in them at all, and clearly they either didn't understand it or they just weren't paying attention, which is what I'm guessing is what happened.
Happens to the
Um,
best of us.
but I like those kind of questions. Keep a lookout for those. Speaking of kind of questions, I got a few more questions for you, Pat, before we get into our lightning trivia for you. What is your favorite type of trivia question? Now, we've had a few different kinds on Timmy's trivia. There's multiple choice, open-ended, guess the photo. And I think those are the three that we had this week. But what's your favorite type? It could be any of those three, or another type of question that I haven't asked that you've had at other trivias.
Yeah, I would say my least favorite is true or false, and I'm glad that the first Timmy's trivia didn't have any of those questions. Um, I don't know. I mean, I like them to be open ended versus multiple choice, just because I feel like that makes it more interesting. Um, I really enjoy the kind of speed rounds where they show pictures of like characters in movies, for example, things like that. I like the pictures. I also
Okay.
like when they play the sound clips from songs. That's always a lot of fun.
Okay. Cool.
There's always those questions where it's some random ass number and you need to be the closest to get to it. And I tend to not do so good at those.
Yeah, like how
Um,
many career points did so and so
yeah.
score? Yeah,
I always tend to be way off on that.
yeah. Those ones are tough because it's like I don't know how you can really know, exactly, especially if it's a number that's like above 10. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
what would you say is your best subject in trivia?
Well, one of my career highlights. So last time I played trivia at a bar, my team ended up going 30 for 30, a perfect game. We just totally crushed it. Um, and I think one of the reasons why is because it was 90s themed questions.
Okay.
Uh, you know, I was alive for the entire 90s. I remember a good portion of it. But I tend to do pretty good, tend to do better at like sports questions, pop culture, music, especially if it's older music, tend to do really well.
Yeah. See, I thought you were going to say music. I've always thought that you've known a lot about music.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's just because I don't know anything really about music unless it's like early 2000s rap. That's all I know.
Sure. Yeah.
But I've always pointed you as the music guy of my friends.
Yeah. Unless it's like current day music stuff, in which case, yeah, I'm not so great. But
Yeah, it's hard to listen to music once you have kids besides Disney
yeah.
stuff.
Oh, yeah. A lot of
Uh,
Baby Shark.
yeah. Okay, last question here for trivia. Is there a favorite memory? You mentioned the Rain Man thing. A favorite memory you have, and uh, what's the most money you've ever won playing trivia?
Well, I would say I don't do it for the money. I do it for the pride, man. Which is another way of saying I don't think I've never really won a lot of money.
Okay.
Usually, if you win, which to be honest is pretty rare, like it's hard to win at trivia. You need, even if you're good, you need a lot of luck. Um,
You also, I have to say real quick, you need to have like, if you're doing this at a bar, you need to have at least like 4 to 5 people. I think
yep.
some bars they don't allow you to have more than 6 people at a table, from what I
Mhm.
remember. I think the trivia that we used to play in college was called stump trivia,
Yep. Yeah. Yeah.
and I
So that's
think
like almost like a chain trivia, right?
yeah,
Like that,
yeah, I think
that
that was
every
like
bar will have that.
their thing was like no more than 6 people, and
Yep.
typically the prize was like a gift certificate to the bar
Yeah.
that was hosting. It's like, here's $50 to spend on the
Yeah.
$200 tab you just rung up.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I've won a lot of like free tabs or like I don't know gift certificates to bars, right?
Mhm.
Nothing. I can't quit my day job. Put it that way.
Not
Um,
yet. So if you're
yeah.
listening, the top prize of week 1 for Cousin Timmy's trivia was $172. Now, the more people that play, the bigger the prize. So you could potentially win 5, 6, 7, $800 playing. So I guess I'd say if you keep playing, the biggest prize you might ever win would be on Cousin Timmy's, unless we do that Jeopardy game. So, right?
We'll see.
Okay. So, now let me see here. Should we get into the questions? Do you have anything else you want to say about trivia? Any other
The only other thing I'd
pointers you
have,
want to give people?
I can put out. I can let the good people know what my all-time favorite trivia question is.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Now it's related. It's related to Michael Jordan.
Okay.
So I'll leave it up to you as the host. You want me to ask you a bunch quick rapid fire Chicago Bulls questions that will lead up to that question? You think the people would want to hear that?
Well, this has anything to do with the show that just came out? I haven't seen it yet.
Well, yeah. So I've only seen the first like 10 minutes.
Okay, I haven't
So I
seen
bet a
it.
lot of people will get this due to the show.
I haven't seen any of it, but how many questions are the build up?
We can do it real fast. There's
All right,
about
go ahead.
five or
Shoot.
six.
All right, shoot, and then we'll get into
Okay.
your trivia.
Rapid fire. You only get a second to answer. Who
Yeah.
did the Bulls beat in 1993 to win the championship?
Portland Trailblazers.
Phoenix Suns. Got that wrong. Who hit the game-winning shot to win the championship?
Steve Kerr.
Wrong white guy. John Paxson.
Paxson. Okay.
Now, but that wasn't the last possession of that game.
Okay.
Phoenix had one more possession. Who took the shot and who blocked the shot on the Bulls?
I'm gonna guess Dan Marley, Scottie Pippen blocked the shot.
Under Dan is incorrect. It was Kevin Johnson,
Okay.
former Sacktown mayor, blocked by Horace Grant.
Okay.
3 more quick questions. What college did MJ go to?
North Carolina.
Where did Scottie Pippen go to college?
Little Rock, Arkansas.
Yeah, very close. Central Arkansas.
Okay.
And where did Dennis Rodman go to college?
School of Hard Knocks.
Kinda. He also played for the Southeast Oklahoma State Savages, which I checked to see if that was still a thing. They had to change their name. The name
Okay.
Savage, the mascot, a little problematic. Okay, now we're leading up to what is my favorite question. I'll ask
Okay.
2 more lead-up questions about it, then I'll get to it.
All right.
MJ played baseball for a year or so. Took a little hiatus.
Yeah.
Played for the minor league team for the White Sox. What
Uh-huh.
class was that minor league team?
Single A.
It was Double A.
He
What
sucked.
was the team name?
The White Sox.
The Birmingham Barons. And
Okay.
who? Now this This is Pat Chambers' all-time favorite trivia question. Who was the manager of the Birmingham Barons when Michael Jordan played for that one season?
I knew this at one time.
Probably asked you at one point.
Was he in the movie Space Jam? Did he make a cameo?
I'm not sure. I highly doubt it. I would say probably not.
I'm just gonna throw a wild guess. Buck Showalter.
Terry Francona.
Oh, that's why it's your favorite.
World champion. And in fact, when Theo Epstein hired him to be the manager of the Red Sox, he listed Michael Jordan as one of his references.
Wow.
Imagine conducting a reference check on an employee and calling Michael Jordan.
All right. Wow. Good trivia question. I like it. I used to know like 10 years ago, if you asked me any question about 90s NBA, I knew the answer. No question. No questions asked. Like that was my thing. I still know a good amount if I can remember it. And when I worked there, it was reminded a lot of certain things, but today's another day. So, all right, Pat, are you ready for this? Are you ready for the lightning round questions?
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a few questions for a warm up, and then I'm going to give you 5 or so questions, and you can either say answer or pass, and we'll go back to it if you don't get it right. And we'll put 60 seconds on the clock. We'll add a little pop up there. Okay. So warm up question. So you recently moved to Wisconsin tell all of our listeners, you moved from Baltimore, Maryland. Is that right?
Yes, that is.
Okay.
That is correct.
All right. Ding, ding. 1 point for me. First question for you. Wisconsin borders 4 states. What are they?
Minnesota, Illinois, Michigan, and Iowa.
That's correct.
I'd have to leave town if I got that one wrong.
You would. Now, this will be a fun one. Unfortunately, I didn't write all the answers down on the notes I have in front of me, so I'll have to go back and check. But I think if you know, you know. Otherwise, you'll just say, I don't know.
I meant to make this my background. For the folks listening, I have the Chicago's Bulls as my background when I asked that question. Better late than never, though.
Yes, his background has now changed. Okay, I'm going to give you the pro sports team in Wisconsin. I'm going to give you the league. Okay, these are all pro sports teams in Wisconsin. I'm going to give you the league, and you tell me if you know the name of the team. Okay?
Sure.
Okay. NBA.
Milwaukee Bucks.
Yep. MLB.
Milwaukee Brewers.
That's correct. The AHL.
Give me the town.
I can't.
I don't know.
Okay. I'll reveal the answers after.
So you don't even know?
I have them down somewhere. This is more of a just like, have you been looking at billboards when you drive around town?
No, I know I've definitely seen that at some point, but I'm blanking now.
Okay. NBA G League.
G League? There's one in Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. The Maine Red Claws?
Nope. The Herd.
The Herd?
Yep.
From where? What city are they in?
I think they're just called Wisconsin Herd.
Huh.
Let me see where they play. They're in Oshkosh.
Oh. Well, next time I'm in Oshkosh, I'll have to check it out.
Let's see. I'm going to look up the other one right now really quick for you. Wisconsin AHL is in Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's not helping.
Okay. Milwaukee Admirals. The AHL
Ah,
is a American Hockey League, for those of you that don't know. Okay. So that's those two. And then the final question is the ultimate Frisbee team. Now, this is in your backyard of Madison. So
I don't know.
take a
But
guess.
the soccer team is the Madison forward, so maybe the ultimate frisbee forward. I can't say I follow too much ultimate frizz.
The ultimate Frisbee team is called the Madison Radicals.
Makes sense.
Now, you have a Madison Mallards hat. I bet the Radicals hat is much cooler looking. You better invest in one.
Yeah, I got to get on that.
The next time I have you on this show, I want you to send me a Madison Radicals hat, and I will wear it.
Okay.
All right.
Deal.
Okay. Now, okay. So, lightning round. Here we go. Pat, for everyone that hasn't known, has attended 4 different universities, 4 different levels of education. Northwestern, Boston College, University of Pennsylvania, and UMass Amherst. Is that correct?
All true.
Did I get all those right? Okay.
Yeah.
I will give you an easy one to start. Which of these schools has the highest undergraduate enrollment? The largest?
Between UMass, BC, Penn, and Northwestern, I'm going to go with UMass.
That's correct. Which school has the lowest undergraduate enrollment?
Well, it's not UMass. So that's between BC, Penn, and Northwestern. I'm going to go with Penn.
That's correct. 6,311.
Ooh.
And
undergrad or grad and undergrad?
It's undergraduate are these numbers that I looked up.
Gotcha.
Now, can you place the last two in order? Who has more students, BC or Northwestern? It's close.
I think BC has more students than Northwestern.
That's correct. 9,300 to 8,200.
Well, my justification for that was I was on an intramural team at Northwestern that won the championship due to having really good players on the team. I rode the pine, but I never won any intramural championships at BC. So I got to figure there's less students there at Northwestern.
Okay, let's get into basketball here real quick. Of the 4 schools, which school was the last school to reach the NCAA tournament, March Madness?
Well, BC has not been doing so good lately. Neither has UMass. Penn did make the tournament relatively, because Penn has BC's old coach. Northwestern famously made it for the first time, I think 2 years ago. So I'm going to go with Northwestern.
The answer is Penn.
Under Coach Steve Donahue.
Penn made the tournament in 2018, most recently.
Yep.
Now, I know BC is your true love for basketball with your summer camps that you used to attend there.
Correction, that we used to.
That's correct. We did attend there. Who did BC lose to in the NCAA tournament in 2011?
Oh, 2011. Is that when Reggie Jackson was on the team?
Probably, yeah.
Uh, I don't remember, Tim. You want to give me a hint?
The answer is not far away from you.
Wisconsin?
Close. Northwestern.
Oh. Wait. They lost to Northwestern in 2011 in the tournament?
Northwestern beat Boston College in 2011 in the NCAA tournament.
I thought they made the tournament for the first time a few years ago.
I don't know.
We'll fact check that later.
Yeah, we will fact check that. Let's see. Some other side notes. Boston College beat Penn in the NCAA tournament in 2005.
Nice.
Which is when we were in school. Remember that?
Yeah, although I don't think I was still at UMass then.
So BC beat Penn in the first round in 2005, and in the second round, they got ousted by former alumni coach
Yep.
and your current neighbor, University of Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Bruce Pearl, who was the Eagle mascot, I believe, when he was at BC as an undergrad. So.
Mm-hmm. Okay, a couple more questions for you. UMass lost to Kentucky in 1996 in the finals. In the Final Four, sorry, I should say.
Yeah.
Who did they beat in the Elite Eight? Who did UMass beat in the Elite Eight that year?
I mean, I remember that was John Calipari, refused to lose. Marcus Camby, Lou Rowe. I remember they lost one game in the regular season to George Washington, and then they lost to effing Rick Pitino in Kentucky. Twan Walker, I believe, was on Kentucky at the time. I can't say I remember who they won to get there, so I'm just going to guess Villanova.
Close. It was another Big East team. I'll give you a hint. They had the future number one pick in the draft.
Oh, that's right. They beat Allen Iverson and the Georgetown Hoyas.
That's correct. Now,
Iverson was picked ahead of the Camby man in that year's draft.
That's right. Now, you kind of already answered half the questions. I was going to say, name 3 of the 5 starters from that UMass team.
So what did I say? Camby, Lou Rowe, Edgar Padilla. Did I say that?
Lou Rowe was not on this team.
I think he was on the next year or something.
Yeah. Okay. But Camby is correct. Edgar Padilla is correct. Can you name one more?
Blanket.
Carmelo Travieso.
Oh, that's right.
Which was like one of my favorite players.
Yeah.
And then they had Dante Bright and Dana Dingle was the other guy.
Great name.
It's a wonderful name.
When I was at UMass, they had a kid who was like, I'm not joking, 400 pounds. And his nickname was Big Deli. And he could only play for like 2 minutes at a time.
I remember him.
He was unmovable.
Love
he was
that
like
guy.
6'8", 400 pounds.
I love that guy.
Yeah.
He was a champ. Okay, last couple of questions. When we lived at Wilson Park in college, what number house did we live at?
I don't know. I mean, I can remember that the squalid living conditions, the rodents running around, the permanent beer stains on the floor. Having said that, it was a great time and I loved it. But I do not remember the number. Was it 42 or 24? For some reason that's sticking in my brain.
Uh,
Or my way
it
off.
shares the same number with the great Larry Legend.
33.
33
Wow.
Wilson Park, apartment number 3, top floor.
Nice.
The next question is, what was the name of our landlord?
Simon.
That's correct. What nationality was he?
Greek, baby.
And what were his famous last words to us, or to me specifically, the last time we saw him?
Well, I don't know how specific you want to be, because he ended every sentence with, know what I mean? Know what I mean?
Well, that's part of the
Because
answer.
his English was, not so great. So he wanted to make sure that we understood him.
That's part of the answer.
But what I believe you're asking is, when we had a little social gathering that, got a little out of hand, and he just showed up to break up this Friday night party and said, Spiro, party over. Know what I mean?
That is correct. Spiros, party's over. Know what I mean? That's more precise.
No, he called you Spiro. He didn't call you Spiros.
Spiro, party over. Know what I mean?
Spiro. I do remember the time he came to check on the heat, and then decided while he was here that he would just go in our bathroom and take a huge shit. But, I guess he owns the property, so he's allowed to do it.
That was your bathroom too, wasn't it?
Well, it was all of our bathrooms.
We shared a bathroom? You're right. We did. You know what? You know why?
There's only one bathroom.
You know why I brought this up? Is because I was randomly I was looking for the answer, and the apartment was for rent on apartments.com, and I was looking at the photos, and I was like, oh my God, I used to live at this place. It looks so different. Looks like a lot nicer.
Yeah, I hope so.
I'm just trying to get this BC Northwestern basketball for you real quick. See if I can find it. If not, maybe you can.
Well, we can edit this. Hang on. Check it out real quick. 2011. Two 2010 through 2011. They lost to Northwestern in the second round of the NIT.
Oh, it was NIT?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just researched that wrong. I think the last time BC was in the tournament was 2009.
That was the year that Steve Donahue took over as coach, replacing Al Skinner, and they went 15-16, made the NIT.
Okay, so it was 2009. I think was the last year they made the NCAA tournament. Was what I researched, and when I read that, I was a little confused.
Yeah, and that was
Tyrese Rice
ago. And they're, yeah, no, we don't have to get into that, but
yeah. So, okay, well, Pat, you didn't do as well as I thought you would on the lightning round of trivia. It wasn't really a lightning round. I'll have to do a better job next time on my part.
Well, you got to save all your good questions for Saturdays, 9 p.m. Eastern time. For the folks who pay only $10 to enter, to go into Timmy's Tavern and play Cousin Timmy's Trivia.
Yeah. Any last words, Pat, for the listeners here on Cousin Timmy's podcast?
Yep. Find me on Saturday nights and go Mallards.
All right. I want to thank my good pal, Pat Chambers, for being on the episode 1 of season 2 of my Cousin Timmy podcast. He was a good sport. Talked about trivia. We learned a lot about the brain and how it works when answering questions. I want to thank everybody for listening. And if you're not doing anything on Saturday nights, We have week 2 of My Cousin Timmy's Trivia at 9 p.m. Eastern. We play on Zoom and use the Kahoot app for providing all of the questions that I custom hand make. So thanks again to Pat. It was a pleasure seeing you in your non-Greek God body-like stature. Really appreciate you being the first guest on season 2. Had a lot of fun tonight, and look forward to seeing you soon.
Glad you're back, Cousin Timmy. Looking forward to season 2.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Well, she sneaks around the world from India to Carolina. She's a sticky-fingered filcher from Berlin down to Belize. Take you for a ride on a slow bus to Chinatown.